T minus 80 seconds. T minus 70 seconds. T minus 60 seconds. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 15 seconds.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to the Outpost Frequencies, brought to you by thelastmovieoutpost.com for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about film. It's just us this evening. Sean is still on the run from the FBI. He was free the other week, but they put up with him again from something completely different. And Matt apparently has family things to do. Anyway.
I know Sean is on the run from the FBI, but I'm pretty sure this means we'll be seeing him headlining a superhero movie soon, right?
Yeah,
I think that's how it works.
He's building up a little cult following.
Yeah.
I say building up. I mean, he's holding people hostage.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Matt apparently has got his son's birthday, and apparently that's more important than this. So
weird.
We know where his allegiance lies. Anyway, Yoda, how are you today?
I was. There's a lot of things. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and then there's one other thing I didn't mention in our pre-show. But I'm kind of looking at, what came before, and how I felt about movies, and the new trailers, all that, and I'm just at a point where I'm like, everything I see coming out, it either does not excite me, or I wonder how they're going to F up my favorite property. I just look at everything. It's like, how are they going to make this in a way that's going to be insulting to me? And I say me, like, because of the way I was born and who I like to have sex with.
With it, I'm the same as you, that I have loved, for me, movies have just been a part of my life, my entire life. Yeah. But I am getting to the point now where I try and find something new to watch, and it's just no. And, very rarely something comes out that I actually think, oh, I can look forward to that, because the rest of the time it is just dribble that's coming
Trailers are all done nearly exactly the same. And so, because there's no effort or no creativity put into the trailers, I assume that there's no creativity or effort put to the movies. And quite often, I am proven correct. And I just am like, I think what's bothering me so much is that you've taken this thing that I have loved for, like you said, my entire life. Movies have been such an art form that I just adore, because it has all the art forms crammed in it. You got, screenwriting and novelizations and music, John Williams and that kind of stuff. You've got photography. You've got, choreography.
Yeah, all this kind of stuff.
All of it's in it. A movie encompasses all of that. You could say to a lesser extent, a TV show, I suppose, but a movie done right is to me the perfect art form because it's usually short. It's not, you don't have to watch 27 episodes, and they have to put it all together. They have to be restrained, and we've come out with some of the best pieces of art. And right now, the people that are in charge of doing that, the people that have the money or have the properties that are doing that, have destroyed this thing that I love. And it's so depressing. And I don't mean to start this out so depressing, but I mean,
are you looking downhill from here?
You might find a gold nugget here and there. Yes, am I looking forward to Dune? Yes, I am. But all the rest of it, even stuff that I think is probably going to be good and I'm kind of looking forward to, because of the way they shoot things now, it's got a sheen of CG on it. Yeah. Even if something as minor as color correction, it just doesn't feel like I'm watching a film anymore.
You know what? We will come on to that because when we get to talk about Extraction 2, we will get on to this. So let's have a look at some of the other things in the news. You've seen all the banners and stuff below. Do all the stuff. Right.
Like, share, subscribe. Love us.
Blah, blah, blah.
Validate us. Give us a reason to keep on living, please.
Please help these two miserable old farts who have already started off on a bad
I've got a handful of pills just ready to go.
Yeah, those are happy pills. They're antidepressants.
I'll be happy.
The more we can take. But yeah, so The Flash isn't very fast. It has had a colossal drop-off of something like 72%, I think it is. Because obviously word of mouth has got around. No, you saw The Flash, didn't you? You didn't think it was terrible.
I think... No, it is. It's not good. I don't want to. After all the shit you see or the bland shit you see, there's things in there that I kind of appreciated, kind of that I wanted to see. Like, oh, that's an interesting concept, but nothing got off the conceptual stage for me. It's like they had interesting ideas and they put them in there, and then they could do nothing useful or substantial with it. And then I think there's a lot of people, which I get, that cannot get past the Ezra Miller problem. They can't watch it without thinking about this guy. And I get it. I mean, I can, to a certain extent, I can see the movie, but I understand it is there in the back of your mind.
It's the same now problem with, I can't remember what it was recently, but it was something with Kevin Spacey, and I think it was LA Confidential, which is a fantastic movie. But because
I just watched it recently. I had never seen it before. I watched it recently. I was like, this is great. Why have you not been in my eyeballs years ago?
But now you've got the problem that Kevin Spacey's been associated with so much bad stuff, and nobody knows if it's true or not. But when you're watching him, it's still just there in the back of your mind. And it's the same with Ezra Miller, that apparently his performance in the film is very good, but at the same time he is nuts.
Well, I mean, look, I don't want to sound like I'm defending Kevin Spacey here, okay? But a lot of the stuff that Kevin Spacey is accused of feels like shit that they've been doing in Hollywood since there was a Hollywood, Yeah. I mean, it's a depraved lunatic asylum. So let's not act like Kevin Spacey is like some sort of Hitler compared to everyone else that's out there. Even Weinstein, I go, okay, yeah, he's a sleazebag, he's a scumbag, but it wasn't like he raped. It's like, you want to part in a movie? Have sex with me, okay? And they had sex with him. I mean, what do you want? If he was creepy and whatever, I'm glad he's out of there. I don't, I don't want to make it sound like, and if Spacey did more, coercive stuff, I get it. But if it's more of a quid pro quo thing, it's gross. I mean, I don't ever hear of the insurance adjuster's couch or anything like that. It's always Hollywood that's doing all this depraved lunatic stuff. So I got no sympathy for him. But Ezra Miller is on another level. I mean, we're talking kidnapping. We're talking on the run from the FBI. We're talking some pretty heinous stuff that involved a lot more coercion, I think, than I mean, these other guys are like, to me, it's like business as usual. And I don't know why some of these guys are on the outs and others are just fine. But you know, I've gotten to the point we have two tiers of justice left in this society, no matter what you're talking about. So
we're getting off point a bit. So we're coming back to the Flash.
Let's get back to the Flash.
Difficult. It is difficult to put Ezra Miller's personal life aside. I haven't seen the Flash yet. I will watch it when it comes out on digital. I am in no hurry to see it. It's one of those, you know, yeah, I'll watch it just for the sake of watching it. But like I say, I think the word got out about it, and just the numbers just fell off. And so the second week, it's earned something like $7 million or something or other. It's
more than that, but not much more.
It's a ridiculously low number, though.
Yeah, I think it made like, well, I can tell you. Hold on a second here.
It was a lot less than the first week. Heck of a lot.
So the Flash made, we think, this will be the 23rd through the 25th. Yeah, it looks like it made 15 million, which is pathetic. So yeah. If you look at it, I've done a lot of research into box office numbers. Typically, what you want is you want your movie to make 2.5 or more times its opener. So if you make 100 million, you want to make 250 to 300 million. Anything past that is probably gravy. I'm just talking domestic, U.S., Canada, the worldwide numbers. You got, you know, all that coming in as well. So I was looking through 2023 here, and it's pretty interesting. Super Mario Brothers opened at 146 million. So 450 million would be 3x. That would be phenomenal, considering, you know, the opening. It gets harder and harder to get to that 3x when your opening is higher and higher. And it's gotten to 572 million. That's more. That's like 3.5x or so. I don't do the math right now. Guardians of the Galaxy started out at 118 million. It's made 312 million. That's about 2.9, 2.8x. That's good. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, 120 million. It's up to 297 million. I'm sure it will get past 300 million. Mm-hmm. It's well within that 2.5 to 3. Yeah. Little Mermaid, 95 million. It's up to 270 million, which was kind of shocking to me. But you're almost that's good. It's 2.8x, give or take. Then the drop off is significant. Ant-Man and the Wasp, 106 million. It's made 214 million. That's barely 2x. That's a flop. John Wick Chapter 4, 73 million. It's made 187 million. So a little over 2.3x, maybe almost 2.5. Not great, but close enough to break even at least. Creed, 58 million. It's made 156 million. Okay. Transformers, 61 million. It's only made 122. Given its budget, I don't think that's going to break even. Fast X, I think 67.
I think with Transformers, I did just read somewhere that it's broken more than that now. But again,
Now, give it. Remember, this is domestic. Transformers does really well overseas.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Fast X the same way. It's made 67 million. It hasn't made 100. It's made 119 million domestically. That's not even 2x. But all of Fast X's Fast and Furious comes from overseas. It destroys overseas. Then you get to the Flash, 55 million opener, 87 million so far. That's 1.6x. That's not going to that. I don't know what James Gunn is going to do. I don't know what these they would have been better off.
They would have been better off canning it and just taking the hit like they did with that back
tax write-off. Yeah. I don't know if they could have. The truth is, it's not like if this came out 10 years ago, or if it came out when it was supposed to come out, like when they started working on this back in 2014, I think. Now, granted, you'd only had the Man of Steel so far, so this would have. I don't know how they would have done it, but they could have done the multiverse stuff back then, and it would have been new and fresh and interesting. And then everything they did, the special effects are really off-putting to a lot of people. I can kind of put up with special effects if I feel like the story's halfway decent. Otherwise, I'd hate Tron.
But again, we come back to that point of the whole, how can you possibly have postponed this movie for this long and then yet still had bad special effects? Surely, with it being postponed for so long, you could have worked on the special effects and actually made them decent.
I think The Flash is a perfect storm of shit. You got bad special effects. You got them pretty much closing the book on the DCEU. And you're well past your sell-by date for multiverse stuff. And you've got a star that is going to be on America's Most Wanted for his next gig. So I don't know how this was doomed no matter what, in my opinion.
So unfortunately, The Flash is not going to be, like I say, it's not going to be getting a sequel anytime soon. And the thing is you say that, and yet in the back of your mind you are going, somebody's pitching it. Somewhere, somebody's sat with James Gunn right now going, if we just replaced it, and who knows what Hollywood's going on. It's just ridiculous. Let's talk about something a bit more. Oh, go on.
As I say, and we'll let this go, but I think what bothered me most about The Flash was that it needed to put like moments from the Flashpoint storyline in there, even though it doesn't really make a lick of sense to do it. Like when they needed to get his powers back, they had to strap him in the chair. It's like, why did he have to lose his powers to begin with? You didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
But it was to get him back in the chair so that it would fail once, so that it would work the second time. It's like, why? Because that's what was in the novel.
Yeah.
Okay, but it adds nothing to this story that you're trying to tell.
Let's move on to something a little bit more, a bit more upbeat. I'm going to say upbeat. Liz Hurley is now 58 or thereabouts. I didn't actually work it out exactly, but anyway, but she is going to be appearing nude in a new film, to which all men sort of go, ooh, okay. And not only does she get nude, but she gets it on with another woman nude. And then you were going, really? At first you had my interest, but now you've got my my full attention. Until you hear that the movie that she has done this for has been written and directed by her son. Well, all of a sudden it gets icky. I mean,
what's the name of the movie? Oedipus Rex?
I think it's something Shakespearean. Who pays for that wedding? I mean, but it's just, it's so weird because, I mean, firstly, Liz Hurley is a great looking woman. I wouldn't say she's a great actress. She does the job. But it's so weird that you how did that conversation go? Mum, do you want to be in a film? Yeah. Do you mind getting naked and getting it off with another woman whilst I film it? Yeah, that's fine.
Like I said, it's all lunatic asylum. I have noticed, though, that some of these actresses, like Michelle Pfeiffer, I think, and Meg Ryan, both, Halle Berry, they when they're young, like in their 20s, it's like, oh, no nude scenes. I'm not doing any nude scenes. And then when they're in their 40s and 50s, and they realize they're just not getting the roles, and they're not paying attention to them, but they're still a name. That's when they start saying, "Okay, I'll break out the tits." It's like, it feels like
look at me.
It feels like a desperate plea for attention to me when they do this. And she's not the first one to do this. This has happened many times. They get naked later in life because nobody wants to pay attention to them anymore. It's like, but you and I can hear it. It's like, oh, Liz Hurley's getting nude because you heard the name. You remember what she looked like back in the day, and now you're on board. So I'd say it works. I don't care. I'm not going to watch it, but I'm like going, it's just a sad, desperate plea for attention. I'm sorry, that's all it is.
I have seen, and I'm just going to call it Big Cater's comment there because he's just said Jennifer Lawrence got nude for her movie, and it did better than The Flash this weekend. This new movie of hers, whose name I can't even remember, and I thought, okay, so she's got nude in this and everything else. And I thought, didn't she really kick off with a whole phone hacking thing and the iCloud thing and blah 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 and everything else? And then all of a sudden it's like, and like I say, it doesn't compute in my head.
I would call that the ultimate spoiler. I've already seen it.
Yeah, and she seems to be really kicking off about feminism and all this kind of stuff, and then it's just like it's literally get your tits out for the lads.
What has she done lately? I mean, her.
It's so weird how actors do this. There are some actors that come out. I saw something the other day. The name Zach Galifianakis came up, and again. Like a few years ago, he had a whole run of movies like The Hangover. No.
Oh, God,
no, damn it. But with it, he came out in a whole slew of movies, and then it's just like you faded away. Michael Fassbender did the same thing. How he was kind of like in everything, for like 2 or 3 years, and then he just kind of fades away. That was strange.
There's always these flavor of the months that they try. Sam Worthington is like the poster boy for this, right?
Yeah.
They gotta decide that you are going to be the number one thing, and then they don't. Nobody responds to them because they're made out of plastic and nobody cares. And they don't have any personality. They're only marginally good actors, and it's like I'd rather see Tom Cruise in anything than most of these guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So anyway, Liz Hurley's looking amazing and is going to get her boobs out. That's the end of that story. Nobody's going to watch it. I think somebody on the comments on the last movie outpost said, "I'm just going to watch this movie in clip form." That's probably the best way.
in 3 to 5 minute intervals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I saw 5 minutes of the film and it was excellent.
All I needed.
Black Mirror season 6. Okay, I don't think we spoke about this last week, but.
You didn't speak about nothing. You left me high and dry in the worst podcast I've ever done.
I do apologize for last week. I have been extremely busy and just burnt myself out a little. So Black Mirror season 6 is now streaming on Netflix. Have you seen them? I
saw the first episode, and it was the one where it's called Joan is Awful.
Yes.
And it's like
you sign up to Netflix and then literally have all of your it gives them the right to use your entire personality to make their own show.
Yeah.
Very clever concept.
Am I supposed to I don't know. It's like, oh, we know that we're going to be doing this. We know that we're going to AI all this. We know that we're doing this. And we know we're going to ruin people. And so we're just making a fun little episode about it. Because it was, this is a Netflix series now.
Yeah.
And clearly the Netflix influence was all, they called it Streamberry. But the Streamberry, even the Joan is Awful looked like the Netflix logo at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I'm like,
noise. It was it was exactly the same noise as Netflix.
Yeah. and dun dun, and then they had this, all the curtains like pulling away or whatever that graphic is. And I'm like going, okay, this, what this looked like to me? It didn't look like a warning or a comment on, what we should be afraid of, like all those great 70s sci-fi movies and 80s sci-fi movies, like RoboCop is like, watch out, corporate power, and this was like Netflix, like saying, yeah, this is what we're going to do to you, and you can't stop it. That's what I felt like. I felt like this was just, them telling us, we're huge. You can't do anything about it. You have no power. Good luck. And I'm going, it was cute and everything. Okay, they killed the quantum computer. Like, they're not going to build another one or something. I don't know. I just felt it was just so cynical and so big middle finger in your face. And I haven't heard good things about the rest of the season. So I was going to kind of quit.
I was going to say, that's the weird thing that I've had people sort of saying that this is the worst series. And yet, I think it's had some of the best episodes in it. Episode 3 in particular is called Beyond the Sea. And the main crux of the story is there are two astronauts, and it's Josh Hartnett and Aaron Paul, who are on a deep space mission for a couple of years.
There's another one, Josh Hartnett. Sam
What did I say?
Worthington. You said
right,
Josh
yeah, right.
Hartnett. I was like, he's another Sam Worthington.
Yeah. But with it, they're both on this deep space mission, but they can link to an android which is still at home with their families. So, you know, obviously, while there's an emergency on the ship, they get a beep on their thing. The android logs back in, and then they come back out and deal with the situation, which is very clever, very good. Apart from some hippies break into Josh Hartnett's place to see whether he is an android or not. And so while Josh Hartnett is logged into this thing and sees everything, these people murder his family. And like the episode is there's way much more to the episode than that, and it ended brilliantly because it didn't end on a cliffhanger. Well, no, it is kind of a cliffhanger, but I thought it was one of the best episodes of anything I've seen in ages. It was fantastic. In fact, the only episode I didn't like from this new series of Black Mirror was number 4 with Zazie Beetz, which was, again, a very good concept and a story, but they took ages to get into it. And then it kind of just ended. And when it ended, I was just kind of, really? I could have quite happily sat through another hour of that because that was just starting to get interesting. And so this series, I think it's been brilliant. I think it's been really, really good. So it's a shame that people have been bad-mouthing it because, like I say, I definitely think it's worth the time. Oh, and by the way, I haven't got Netflix either.
I do have Netflix. I'll give it a shot. I'll watch the other ones. Anne Murphy was the lead in that Joan is Awful, and I've been watching her show. I just finished her show. Kevin Could Go F Himself.
Yeah,
and it's basically like if you're with Kevin, who is the star of his own sitcom, and it's basically a rip on Kevin James and all his sitcoms, or or Peter from Family Guy. You know, the loud, goofy, dumb husband. And then when he's not on camera, it goes from a 3-camera, well evenly lit sitcom type setup, even complete with laugh track, to a much dour single camera dramatic lighting type drama show. And it's going back and forth between that as Kevin and his wife is just, can't. And I always thought this when I watched some of these shows, like, why is Leah Remini with Kevin James in this show? Why hasn't she murdered him with a pickaxe by now? Well, this is kind of that concept, that she just trying to get with their life, and everybody's trying to get with their life. And that's things. There's some of the people in his orbit that you only see in sitcom mode, and then they have a revelation, and then they'll end up in the drama mode, which is cool. And as people start realizing what a shit this guy is. And it's only 2 seasons. It's 8 episodes a season. It's 45 minutes a piece. I really ended up enjoying it. Times that it doesn't gel quite as well as I would like, but overall, I well worth it. So she was in that Joan is Awful. I just segued into that.
Well, I'm just going to say, Maddings just said that NGL, which I haven't gone for by ages, but anyway, is getting presents from Black Mirror. No, I'm not. I just happen to like it. I am a fan of Charlie Brooker. I think the guy is a very clever writer, and he is just not afraid of anything. He's not going to...
I'm sorry. I just noticed the chat. There's like 75. These guys are going bonkers. They don't need us.
I've been trying to keep an eye on it, but they're mostly talking to themselves.
Yeah, that's fine. Talk amongst yourselves.
Let's move on then to Convoy and Smokey and the Bandit. That's not a very well written thing.
No.
You threw that in very quickly, and it's just Convoy Smokey.
So I'm going to read an article here.
That sounds like Convoy Smokey has sadly passed away. The country and western singer has been known for many songs.
hey, too soon. So I'm going to read the article, and I watched Convoy just this morning actually, but I've seen Smokey and the Bandit quite a bit, and I just was struck by this guy's article, so I wanted to bring it to you guys, see what you thought, because I thought it was a pretty good. I feel like it has echoes right now. Watching Burt Reynolds' starring vehicle, Smokey and the Bandit again, I was struck by the similarities between it and the Sam Peckinpah film Convoy. There are obvious on the surface comparisons to be made about going cross-country in an 18-wheeler, but there's something thematic that connects the two. And it's hard to imagine two more different films in terms of tone. Convoy is Sam Peckinpah, the man who made movies about the transformative power of violence, looking at contemporary America and seeing a country he no longer recognized, grinding down the little guy until there was nothing left. Smokey and the Bandit is not that. But it is a tale of a young man who picks up a pretty lady on the country's greatest beer run from Texarkana to Atlanta, while a silly representation of corrupt law enforcement gives dogged but unsuccessful chase. One is serious, borderline unwatchable. I disagree with that. I found it very watchable. And ungainly, while the other is featherlight, fun, and carefree, and yet I still can't separate the two in my mind. These were a reaction to the 60s, and both of these films came out during the 70s. Smokey preceded Convoy by just over a year, and they were both part of this small subgenre of film dealing with truckers that came and went in the blink of an eye. Convoy's release usually marks the endpoint of it, not because it was a financial bomb. It was surprisingly well received. It's actually Sam Peckinpah's highest grossing movie. But because it just ended up being so expensive because of Peckinpah's haphazard shooting methods, it helped turn the industry off the effort. He was also miserably drunk throughout the entire movie. His alcoholism went way out of control. But being released in the late 70s after Watergate, the race riots of the 60s, and in the middle of the malaise of the Carter administration, I find it hard not to read some level of politics in the film that largely has to do with a more conservative view of corrupt authority. Now, I look now, it's like we just went through the the riots of the Summer of Love. We've had all kinds of government corruption being obvious, and talk about malaise of the Biden administration. I mean, it's just horrible. Peckinpah described himself as a 1939 American, which implies a man dedicated to how America was structured and run before the vast expansion of powers that was World War II. Hal Needham, who directed Smokey, equated his own politics to John Wayne, saying, "We spoke the same language, movies, politics, horse, all kinds of adventures. Having worked with Duke on 10 movies, I found him to be down to earth when one-on-one, interesting always, and knowledgeable." These seem to be two film directors edging towards a more conventional view of America in the middle of a vast social change. And both Smokey and Convoy feel like men trying to find their ways in the world. After a decade of what seemed like societal collapse to some, while the late 70s started the process into malaise, there's a tangible desire to break off the busyness of the world and be on one's own. Whether that pair of local lawmen with axes to grind or a Southwestern governor looking for a way to turn an out-of-control situation to his political advantage, it still feels like the world is against the individual. What did belief in the man, capital M, do for men like Martin Rubber Duck Penwald or Bo the Bandit Darville? It created a man who would sooner go after a guy just trying to make a living over anything else. And there's a lot more here, but I feel like that's exactly what's happening now. I mean, if you as an individual these days don't feel just completely put upon by those in power and that everybody's trying to use you for your own gain, if you don't feel the malaise, I feel like this is the cycle repeating. And that these two movies were kind of the antithesis of that. It's like, I just want to bring beer to Atlanta. Why is beer illegal? Why do I have to, do all this just to get somebody some beer? Why can't I just drive my truck without getting some tin pot sheriff with a God complex screwing with me and beating up my friends? And the only way to do it is to leave. But all the people that I've left to are using me to their own advantage. Well, Jesus.
I mean, you say about us as mere mortals being put upon. I must admit that we've had this whole
man.
Yeah, I mean, but we've had this recently, this tragedy of the whole Titanic thing, and in the back of my mind, at first when it came on because we had it on our local, on our BBC News,
Yeah, it was everywhere.
It's like the main story, and I was watching it and going, why is this the main story? Because this is not news to me. And yet, the more it went
interesting.
on,
it's interesting.
Not to me. Anyway, but with it, the more it went on, the more I kept thinking to myself, are they trying to sort of get billionaires to have like a sympathy vote with us, the common man? Because what was weird was it was sort of saying, 5 billion, or these billionaires were trapped on this submarine and blah, 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 blah. And then the next news item was the cost of living crisis in the UK at the moment. And it's like, and there are people just literally flittering away $250,000 on going to the Titanic. And I'm thinking, if they're doing this as a sympathy vote for billionaires, it's not going to work because it's kind of, the man has been pushing us down, and then the man decides to go like literally on a holiday, which could change your entire life, and then dies. And I'm thinking,
well, I've never had a problem with the aspirational things that billionaires have done over the course of time. I've never really had a problem with that. If they want to spend, if it's their money and they earned it legitimately, and that's all fine to me. I don't have a problem with a big company becoming big if they provide a good service. I have a problem with companies and billionaires greasing the government and buying politicians and to everybody else's detriment so they can stay in power. That's where I draw the line. But yeah, I had a problem with people that were really cheering the deaths of these people. But that's just mind-boggling to me. It's like, why would you want them to die? That doesn't make any sense to me. The other part of it, though, I think there's some.
Yeah, I didn't want them to die. That's, I don't wish that upon anybody. But it is just kind of, like I say, the way the press will portraying it over here is like, oh, we should sympathise with these poor people who are going to lose their lives. And it's kind of, if I had £200,000, I wouldn't be spending it on risking my life to just have a holiday like that. I would choose it. I would use it to change my life and maybe buy a And like I say, for me, it was kind of like a sympathy vote that they were just trying to sort of say, oh, billionaires aren't too bad.
It depends on what you watched. I guess my biggest problem with him was the arrogance and the woke. He had woke nonsense. Like, well, we don't want these. When you try to find people that really have a lot of sub experience, all you can find are 50-year-old white guys, and that's not inspirational. It's like, it's not inspirational to implode on the bottom of the ocean either, buddy. But whatever. So I think there's plenty of criticism to be had by the way he was running this thing, but in the end, I don't know, 5 people had died. That's a horrible way to go. But
well, no, apparently they died instantaneously. So I don't know.
I hope so. Hope they didn't even see it coming. But I think getting back to this article that I read, this convoy and Smokey and all that, it just felt like, right now as a common man, and I think everybody's felt this to one extent or another, you don't have a lot of power in your life, and that everything is set up to manipulate you. The social media is certainly set up that way.
Oh yeah.
The propaganda, the news, Hollywood has obviously injected all this politics in all our movies. It's done to basically manipulate us, and all we're supposed to be doing is fighting each other so that they can still lap in the money. I think that was just as much true then as it is now, and I think it's still happening. And you look at the past and you see the present. Weird.
It is funny how a lot of movies do represent, obviously, when they were made. And funny, in some respects, pandering to the time that they were made as well. We're seeing it particularly at the moment, how they are pandering to racism and sexism and everything else, and putting, women forward and actors of colour forward and all this kind of thing, just to sort of supplicate the masses. It's always happened in the past, though. With movies, I think, like I say, they've always kind of been a victim of the politics of the time.
Yeah, I think that then it comes down to what's not all propaganda is terrible propaganda. If the propaganda is we need free speech, we need people to have the freedom to do what they choose, and this is what that movie is trying to tell us. We don't need big. You could say RoboCop was propaganda against big corporations. I mean, yeah, I'm fine with that because the value. We have to look at the value, the underlying foundational values. Is this a good value or a bad value? I think that, encouraging children to take puberty blockers and cut off their own junk is a bad value. So that's bad propaganda. But, see it as you want. Peckinpah was a little bit more overt in Convoy, obviously, than Needham was in Smokey and the Bandit, but they both kind of have that underlying theme. And I think it's the reason why the original Smokey and the Bandit, because it has that underlying theme going on, and it was well made and well produced and everything, that it did really well, where all the sequels, they kind of weren't able to grasp that, and the other sequels sucked. So,
it is, again, it's one of those problems that sometimes a movie is made as a form of art or protest or whatever it is, and then when people pick up and run with the rest of them, it is just kind of like, no, it's a funny car chasing convoy, and it's like, no, you've missed the point of what the sequel should actually be about. I think probably in some respects Saw is like that. How it was making people pay for the crimes that they've done, and then the rest of them were just, it's torture porn. Torture porn is a fun thing in this, and it just kind of lost their ways a little bit with them. Okie doke.
Thank you for letting me indulge in that.
That's right. Did you watch Secret Invasion this week?
No. I did find Sam Jackson's wallet, though, and it says "dumb motherfucker" on it.
If you've seen the article on our website, you will understand why. But no, I watched it, and it was just it's a show that exists. That's it. There's nothing to me whilst watching it. All I kept thinking was, they've done this storyline of people infiltrating and blah blah blah, and people of high position are actually baddies and everything else in the Winter Soldier. So they've covered this, and it's literally the Winter Soldier, but with the Skrulls, dressing up as people, and so it's just.
I haven't watched it yet, but here's what I'm hearing. Did you watch the first episode?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm hearing is that they are going back to the well of taking a beloved male character, in this case Nick Fury, and turning him to a broken down old man who doesn't want to fight anymore, has given up on all his values, and needs, like 4 times I was told in this show that Nick, you don't have it anymore, or you're broken, or you can't do it, or whatever he was saying.
Nick Fury is not the Nick Fury we know from sort of everything between.
It's Jake Skywalker.
It's everything between Iron Man and Endgame. This Nick Fury is now, I want to say, written by a woman, but yeah,
I bet it is.
He's been completely emasculated. He's not as good as he once was. Blah blah blah. Yada yada. And just again, it's just.
I got nothing. I'm not even going to. I'm not. Gets back to what I said at the beginning of the stream. It's like I have no enthusiasm or interest in watching this. I will. The only enthusiasm I have for any Disney product, as far as what's coming out, is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Only because. Anytime John Williams does the music, I want to hear his music. If he's going to put out something new, I want to hear it. That's it. That's all I got out of all of this is I want to hear that. And you know what? I can buy the soundtrack. I don't need to watch the stupid movie.
We will talk about that because we're coming on to Indy. But in line with Secret Wars, I'm just going to go into our second topic here. AI is taking over. Now, as we know, there is a writer's strike on in America at the moment. The writers are on strike because they are a bit annoyed at AI, because AI can do a good chunk of their work without them having to do much, without writers having to do much. But it's also caused problems of copyright permissions and all this kind of stuff. At the same time, Disney release Secret Invasion, which has got the opening credits mostly created by AI. So you couldn't have timed this more perfectly. You could not have timed it more perfectly. That there are writers who are angry at their jobs being on the line because of AI, and Disney have gone, we just fired a load of digital artists because we've got our AI done by we got our the opening credits done by AI. It's ridiculous.
What's my choices here, Phil? I can have machines with AI, or I can have the current crop of writers with no I. And I'm just like, okay, everything's going to be garbage.
I'm going to get on my soapbox about this a little because I've got a vested interest in this. When it comes to AI, I am working on a script at the moment for one of the companies I own about an old railway. I have been finding ChatGPT quite useful. Sometimes if I get stuck with something, I can ask it a question and it generally gives me an answer, which I won't use word for word, but gives me a good, rounded way of doing it, of finishing the script off for like a particular paragraph. Now, back in the day, my dad used to do all the writing. So my dad was kind of like the ChatGPT of the time. So in some respects,
GGP, what?
ChatGPT.
You're just picking random letters that rhyme with E, aren't you?
ChatGPT.
Chat TBD. I'm
just going to say AI. It's less numbers there. And yes, Madding, I do work outside of here. Thank you very much. But with this AI, I've actually found it quite an interesting tool. However, when it comes to these writers and saying about how AI can't come up with anything new, it can't put in any emotions or anything like that. AI can only kind of regurgitate information it can find from other places and from the information that's put into it. And I think to myself, right, so the writers have already had their jobs on the line because of things like Love Island and the Kardashians and Gogglebox. Have you heard of Gogglebox?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Gogglebox.
I have an idea.
This program has been going for, I think, 13 or 14 seasons now. You have got a bunch of moronic airheads who are sat at home reacting to TV shows, and some of it has been nominated for BAFTA awards. People watching, I think one of them, I think it was a couple of years ago, there was one of the reactions on Gogglebox was up against the best television moment, up against the end of Mandalorian season 2. Now, they're worried about these sort of like AI taking over and writing regurgitated crap. And yet the programs that are popular at the moment is just nothing but returning. TikTok is people dancing to songs they haven't written. And again, and I just think, I don't know, I'm really torn about this whole AI thing. I'm very much torn between the two.
Well, I'm kind of, I mean, we've had so much content, and I don't want to say that it's impossible, like all the stories haven't been told, but I'm sure there's something, you don't want to get in that trap where you say, I don't know what else they can make, but there's a certain part of me that's like, what else can you make at this point that hasn't been made in some way, shape, or form? I mean, what's the next genre that hasn't been a very popular genre? Well, you got to go back to Westerns. It's already been done and done better than anything you're going to put out. Yeah,
and not just that, but also, the main basic crux of movies, there's only like 5 or 6 main stories, the fish out of water, the romance, or whatever it is. But go on, carry on.
Well, I'm thinking of all the genres that, from kung fu to sci-fi to superhero to space opera to rom-com to dramas to adventure action. What I don't know. I mean, there's only so many things humans do, that you can do stories on. I feel like we're running out. But maybe.
But the weird thing is, there's always books being produced all the time.
Yeah, I know. I just
it's the whole AI thing. I think is weird. I don't know if the guys Gator and Madigan have seen the opening credits to this new Secret Invasion. When I first watched them, I actually thought, that's quite good. But then when I heard it was done by AI, I did think to myself, immediately I thought to myself, nobody created that. Nobody put their digital artwork and expression and their own sort of personality into that. It was just created by a robot. And it's just, that is a huge shame because, people, I appreciate how hard people work and now a computer can do it for you. But then conversely, we've had this in the past. There was a time where if you wanted to wash your clothes, you had to take them down to the river and bash them against a rock for an hour before they were clean. Whereas now we've got a machine that does
anymore.
Not in
Anybody
the
tell
UK,
me about this.
I know how hard people work. Shut up, Maddie. And it's Boba Phil. I'm not NGO anymore. He died. He was my evil twin. No. But with it, we have had robots or AI, if you like, take over some of the jobs that we do. But obviously now it's coming into this creative side of things. It's then becoming a worry. You know, that people who did used to do the washing in the past are all of a sudden mad because now we've got dishwashers and that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, this is an inexorable plight of humanity, right? New technology taking over jobs, taking over things, doing different, and people having to adjust. And yet, I mean, we have computers and robots and things doing more than ever before, and yet we seem to have a shortage of jobs for some reason. Not a shortage of jobs, but a shortage of workers to fill jobs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the economy's always transform, and technology will always transform to allow people to do different things. And I'm just a big fan of, leaving the government out of it, let people come up with these new innovations that may create new areas of business or productivity that we just never thought of before. I think that's just the natural cycle. It's always tougher for us old farts, though.
Yeah, this is very true. Very true. Okie doke. Right, so actually moving on in this kind of genre and area of topic, series are getting cancelled. Now, the two main ones that came up this week, which I got some grief on social media about, but we'll come to that, were Paramount Plus is not only cancelling, but they're also going to be deleting from their servers Star Trek Prodigy and Grease, The Rise of the Pink Ladies.
That barely got done. I think its last episode was just like a couple of weeks ago, and it's already nobody wanted to see that. And I tried to watch Prodigy. It is unwatchable.
Again, Prodigy, I didn't. Both of the series, I must admit, I didn't even go anywhere near. Rise of the Pink Ladies. It was one of those programs where the entire premise was to pander to the crybabies on social media who aren't seeing representation and it was set in the time of Greece. I mean, I think it was set before Greece, wasn't it? Because it was a prequel to Greece. Because we obviously
it wasn't Rome. It had to be Greece.
But with it, hey, it took me a second, but I got there in the end. But it was set in a 1950s high school where you literally had every colour of the rainbow of kids going to that school.
Yeah, it's perfectly accurate of America at the time.
And just, again, it was never going to work. Ever. I wrote the article about this, so I put into IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes what the scores were. And the scores were actually quite decent for Rise of the Pink Ladies. And all I could think of was, I reckon there was, for example, say 10 reviews. Those 10 reviews are women at home, probably with blue hair, probably looking after a lot of cats, and probably moaning about the masculinity in this world. Those are the only people that could have watched that show to review it, because anybody else would have just slated it. And it's just that people didn't even hate watch this show. They just completely ignored that it was there. Now, let's come on to...
Well, I gotta say, I mean, it's like Grease is a one and done movie if there ever was one. They tried Grease too. It blew chunks and it cratered. And that was way back when. And it's like people love Grease, but you don't need any more. I don't need to see the origin of the T-Birds. It's like nobody gives a shit. Maybe, let's just say for the sake of argument, Pink Ladies was actually good. It's just that the concept is so bad. Nobody cares. Nobody wants it.
To be
Just
fair, it would have been
IP,
nice.
mine the IP, mind the IP. We got to mine it and strip mine it and get every ounce of blood and gold we can out of the IP. IP.
I think it would. I think Pink Ladies, the rise of the Pink Ladies would have been good because it would have been nice to have been seen those Pink Ladies actually as teenagers, as opposed to the 40-year-olds who played them in Greece.
Well, the 50s, people looked pretty rough back then. You know, it just was.
It was a hard time. But coming onto social media, when this came up on someplace I follow on Twitter, and I put up a picture of Chris Evans laughing his ass off. Now, a lot of people liked the comment, but I had a couple of people saying it was disgusting of me to laugh at people who are having their program destroyed and taken off the streaming service. And at first, I felt a twinge of sadness, but then afterwards, I thought to myself, no. I'm sorry. I think laughter is the best response to this because, again, in the article, I looked up a random name of a makeup artist who's worked on about 40 other different productions, some big movies, some big TV shows that are still going and so forth. She's not getting fired because this program is being cancelled, okay? She went to her job, she did her job, she got paid, and now this thing is... I've been in situations like that before.
She's going to go to another project. She doesn't give a shit whether it does well or not.
Exactly. So I thought to myself, no, laughter is the best. Because what I was laughing at is the fact that anybody at Paramount thought that a woke prequel to Grease was a good idea, and then it wasn't, and it got canned. Okay? How many pilot episodes are made throughout the year where you've got people who are building the sets and writing the stories and putting everything together, and then they never see the light of day? Nobody cries over them. And so, with it, I think laughter was the best response, and I don't feel bad for it. And I'm not 23 either, just a little over.
We're laughing at the decision makers. The people who worked on it and did their thing, they've already gotten paid. They're fine. They'll move on to something else. But we are laughing at the decision makers.
And like I say, it kind of annoyed me afterwards because I did think to myself, no, like I say, this is a perfectly acceptable response because these shows are awful. Willow was another one. Willow was just pandering and having inclusion of lesbian characters in a TV series that didn't need it in any way, shape or form. And now it's got deleted off Disney. It is funny because somebody in Disney thought, oh yeah, what we need is lesbian characters in Willow. And they're going to keep their jobs as well, and they're going to carry on making stuff. But all the people that worked on that show, they can be proud of what they've done. And they've done stuff before, which is fantastic, and they're going to do stuff afterwards, which is fantastic. Nobody's lost their jobs over them.
I find it funny that they deleted off the servers because, hard disk space is so expensive now.
Yeah.
So, it's still cheaper to remove it.
I was going to say you can get a terabyte on this, but that's,
I know. It's on many servers. You have to pay monthly. It's across. It's not just in one place, but it's not that expensive at a Paramount size to keep that, or Disney size to keep this stuff on servers somewhere. And if it's that bad that you get so little, like just apparently being on Disney Plus has got people so pissed off that they're canceling their subscriptions and they have to get it off the server so people don't see the fucking thing.
That makes me laugh that when it comes to like Willow was so bad that even Disney wanted to delete it, and you're thinking,
got rid of
wow,
it. Yeah.
Wow. Disney think it's that bad? My goodness me.
Costing them that much money just to exist.
Okay, let's talk about some iconic characters from cinema. I'll tell you what, we'll sandwich them together. But first of all,
speaking of shouldn't exist,
Indiana Jones 5 is out this week. Now, I have actually got tickets to go and see it somewhere. They're on the computer somewhere because I'm going to go and see it on Wednesday afternoon. I am open-minded. And I am hopeful it's not as bad as what I've seen. However, it has Kathleen Kennedy as quite a big credit on it. And I don't know. I'm expecting it to suck donkey balls of the highest order. but at the same time, it might actually be good. We were just talking about this before we went live. Are you gonna go and see it?
Like I said, the only reason I wanted to see it is to fill my ears with lovely John Williams music because he always brings it. But and he's 173 years old, so we're not going to get much more out of him. And he's an absolute national treasure, in my opinion. But
you and I even best. I know, Rogathor, I know.
But as far as the actual movie, I know it's going to suck. And I find it interesting that Disney has fired their head of diversity, their chief diversity officer. They've been firing all these people. They don't fire Kathleen Kennedy. And I'm like, I've been thinking about this. It's like, because she's obviously ruining Lucasfilm. Obviously. So maybe there's some legal thing into it, but I doubt it. I think they could get rid of her if they wanted to. So I think it's because she's high profile. People know who she is. I don't know. I didn't know who this diversity officer was until the story came out. She got fired. I didn't know who that one person that they fired a few weeks ago. I had never heard of her. I guess she started out in the special effects and became really big on getting, the not so gay agenda in there. And so did the diversity officer. But I didn't know who these people were. And so they're quietly getting fired. But Kathleen Kennedy is out there. And I honestly think that they're keeping there because people like you and me want her gone. I think it's really a big middle finger to all of us saying, you want her gone? Well, we're not going to do it.
Or it's one of those things where it's kind of, this keeps people talking about the whole thing. It's free advertising.
I guess I can't imagine how this is. I mean, they're losing money left and right. We had the Disney is Doomed Part 2. I don't know how this can continue. She needs to go. But I think because they hate us so much, they hate people like you and me. Seriously, I really think
I know.
They're keeping her out of spite.
It's tears of laughter that I'm that I'm crying through the pain.
Yeah. But you tell me why they keep her. It's not. It can't be because of her successful track record.
Well, can I just show you something? Because I have seen people keep going on social media saying she has produced and worked on some amazing films. I actually watched Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and I just literally finished today Last Crusade because I thought I'd watch them all again as a trilogy. This came up. Let me just put the screen up here, entire screen. So this came up at the end of Indy. As you can see there, associate to Mr. Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy. Now,
I said it. Spielberg's on-demand blowjob assistant,
or coffee getter, a gopher basically. And I just thought to myself, she's been on. That's like kind of like saying, well, I know somebody who worked on Star Wars. Oh, really? What was he doing? He was a set. He was a carpenter, and it's like. So he's worked on a big film. It doesn't mean he knows much about producing. And I watched, like I say, I just finished Last Crusade. And on Last Crusade, apparently she was just down as the executive producer. And again, it's kind of, so she provided the money for that. And again, it's kind of, so why is it that people think, A, she's good, when it's quite clear that she's completely and utterly ruined Star Wars? It's all down to Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, she's an interesting case study of the difference between the way men and women perceive things. And I would say, all things being equal, she paid her dues. She started out as an associate. She worked on these different films. She worked with Spielberg. She worked with Lucasfilm, George Lucas. She worked her way up over many, many years, decades. And her reward was, great job. You are now the CEO of Lucasfilm. I don't disrespect that up until then.
No.
From what I could tell, because it took so long, like it does every other human out there, she seems to have this huge chip on her shoulder, hates men, and is now trying to destroy all the things that got her to where she was. And all the work that she worked on just to stick it to men. And I'm like going, What do you want? You're the CEO of fucking Lucasfilm. You were handed it on a silver platter
You
after
could.
decades of doing good work, I would assume.
You
And
could
that's how
have
she
completely
responds.
and utterly, been the most loved person on the entire planet. If she'd have given us Star Wars that we wanted, it would have made Disney billions beyond what they could possibly imagine, and every Star Wars fan in the planet would absolutely loved her. But instead, she decides to just become the most hated woman on, out there.
She obviously
It's
has
bizarre.
a chip on her shoulder. She obviously has a huge chip on her shoulder against men. Feels like she's been held back. I'm like, God, that I could get held back that well to end up as the president of CEO of
Yeah.
freaking Lucasfilm. Oh, hold me
Yeah.
back, Daddy.
Yeah.
Whose dick do I gotta suck? You know, I mean, it's like I don't know what you want. I'm guessing that she didn't. Who knows? But I don't feel like she did a lot of that kind of stuff. I think she probably worked hard, and all she got out of it was a huge chip on her shoulder. How sad is that?
Anyway, so Indy 5 is out this week. And like I say, I'm going to go and see it. I'm going to be getting a review up on Wednesday. And like I say, I don't know. I'm going in with an open mind. I know I can go in quite critical of stuff sometimes, but I am going in with an open mind that it might actually be okay.
You are just desperate, aren't you? You are just
I want to
totally
like it.
Desperate.
Well, and I am being quite clever because I've watched Raiders, Temple, and Crusade this weekend. I'm going to review them, put them on the site, hopefully tomorrow. I'll write up all three of them. I am going to watch Crystal Skull again because I haven't seen it for an awfully long time. I am going to watch it again because I'm hoping that watching that might make the Dial of Destiny seem a bit better. Clever.
I think you are in for the most all-time backfire.
Anyway, like I say, we'll have a review up on Wednesday this week of our own real, honest review of Indiana Jones 5. Not a shill review or anything else like that. It'll be completely honest. But speaking of other great characters, apparently Patrick Stewart says he's not done with Picard, which is kind of a shame.
The show or the character?
A bit of both. I've got to admit, I haven't
As
read.
As far as I know,
story.
Picard is done. There is no more.
Hang on. Let me find the article a second. I thought you wrote this, so that's why I thought I won't do much on it.
I haven't wrote shit. I've been so busy. I can't. This is all I can do lately.
I can't find it now. Hang on a minute. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I mean, Picard was a great third season, although the member berries and everything kind of snowed me a little bit. It's a good Generations movie or TNG movie. It's a very good TNG movie. It still can't hold a candle to some of the best episodes of the actual series, which is so much more thoughtful and goes into real interesting ideas and themes and philosophies that I mean, not to say there were some shit episodes, of course there were, but the best episodes of TNG, the best movie can't hold a candle to an average episode of TNG, and I really enjoyed it. I know we were gushing about it. It's nice to have, but it's better than all the TNG movies. But
here we go. I found the article, and it says, while everyone has been talking about Star Trek Legacy and a potential spin-off featuring some of the characters and the Enterprise G, the reunited TNG characters clearly have great fun all being together in the Picard series Season 3. They now want to do it again. Speaking to IndieWire together, LeVar Burton and Patrick Stewart reflect on the great experience of Season 3, and Stewart dropped big hints that he isn't ready to say goodbye just yet. Picard is quoted as saying, "I think we would do a Picard-based movie. Now, not necessarily all about Picard, but about all of us, and to make any of those wonderful elements, particularly from Season 3 of Picard, and to take out of that what we think will be an extraordinary movie. I keep telling people and mentioning it, and so far there's been no eager response. But it might well happen, and it would be a very appropriate way to say goodbye and say goodbye, folks. So
I think it already was an appropriate way. Stop. He's just desperate. Sounds like a guy desperate. I need an
extension on my house, and so I'd be up for a movie.
Yachts aren't going to buy themselves. I like that Picard is mirroring Joe Biden. Oh, come on, make it so, man. Come on, engage or whatever.
Whatever it is you do. But again, with it, again, I'm not being funny, but Picard died ages ago. Not died, but it's one of these things where they are flogging a dead horse. It's on Glastonbury this weekend. They've just had Rick Astley. Now, apparently tickets for Glastonbury are about £350. I'd be pretty angry if I paid £350 to go and see Rick Astley playing, and just, with Picard and stuff like that, just let it go.
You get there, he's like, never going to give. Oh, I'm getting Rickrolled. No, you paid for this.
This is the worst Rickroll of all time.
Yeah, this is expensive, man.
But again, it's just churning stuff out for the sake of churning it out, and it's
mine the IP, mine it, strip mine it, get in there, pull the blood, come on.
And as I keep saying, the more you add to something, the less special it becomes. So with this, like I say, I don't remember much of the TNG. I must admit, I'm not a fan like you are, but I do remember enjoying them. But again, it's kind of a series that is finished and it's over, and as opposed to creating something new and finding a new IP that they can create from the wonderful world of these things called books, which I don't think Hollywood has heard about. They, again, like you say, they just mine this IP and keep digging and keep stripping stuff off the bone, and just makes it less and less special every time they do it.
Do you think it's possible that do you think it's going to be impossible to create new IPs moving forward? Do you think that the entertainment, like you could create IPs because you had 3 channels on the TV and the movie theater?
Yeah.
Everybody had to go see the same stuff, so things would take off because it just wasn't as much to look at. Now, 8 bazillion things. I mean, just trying to get a YouTube channel off the ground, it's very difficult. And do you think it's just we're past the point of that could be done anymore?
I mean, with it, we're going to come on to Extraction 2 the other day, and I mean, let's say, for example, I'm just going to say at random Extraction 2, but John Wick came out and kind of, I don't want to say changed everything. I don't think it's something that's changed everything, but it was a decent set of movies that came out that have been quite enjoyable because they took a chance. The director sort of said to Keanu Reeves, "Oh, let's make an action movie," and they did it, and all of a sudden it was fantastic and everybody loved it, and it's had 4 sequels. I think there are still new stuff out there, but it is just very, very few and far between, and nobody is willing to risk the money on it anymore. When you can, with an older IP, you've kind of got guaranteed bums on seats.
Well, they need to stop. They need to get back to making the $35 to $50 million movie again. That's how you create an IP.
Yeah.
And Extraction is something like that. But then again, I look at Extraction or even John Wick. I'm like, will that ever have the cultural impact that James Bond had? Is that possible anymore? Movies is the only. I will say, movies is the only place where that can happen. The theater. They need to stop throwing things to streaming so damn fast and make these movies that may create an IP going forward. But it's never going to happen on TV or streaming. It's never going to happen.
I know what you mean. Like with Extraction 2, which we will come on to. I wished I had seen that in the cinema because it would have been quite spectacular.
That's what I was thinking.
But then, like I say, if you look at John Wick, I don't know. He's done all right. I think he's part of the sort of zeitgeist of cinemas now.
Not like a Bond. I don't think people are going to be talking about him and still putting out John Wick movies 60 years later.
No, right. Firstly, James Bond is obviously a complete and utter What not? I mean,
That's my point.
what other?
Can you do, since the Dr. No was so popular and they were able, just at the right time to keep churning them out, they were able to recast, they kept putting them out, and they always, they just kind of sank into all the public consciousness. John Wick is good. I don't want to say that he doesn't have a certain level of cultural relevance or anything, but I'm talking about things that were made back then. You can say Star Trek, Star Wars, Superman, the Marvel Comics, James Bond, E.T. I could go on. Indiana Jones. I would say Indiana Jones has way more cultural what's the word of it? Familiarity. People recognize it before they recognize John Wick. I'm not saying anything bad about John Wick. I love John Wick. I'm just saying that everything is so fractured now. I wonder if it's possible to create something with that kind of cultural relevance anymore.
It's a tough one to answer because coming back to John Williams just briefly, but you don't get the big scores in movies anymore like you do with John Williams. When you think of like the Avengers, I can kind of hum the theme tune, maybe the Captain America, but like Man of Steel and stuff like that, I couldn't sing you a note of any of those movies. Whereas like the original, obviously Superman is timelessly classic, and so these days it is very difficult to just hit upon something which is then, I suppose, like you say, as you said earlier, that we've got like 3 channels back in the day, and so when a movie came out, it was a big thing. But then the problem is nowadays is as soon as that comes out, there's a spin-off to it, there's a sequel to it, and it all starts then just piling on the crap, and then loads of other people are taking the mick out of it and all this kind of stuff, and it's very difficult to stand out from the crowd because the crowd is just a hell of a lot bigger than what it was.
Well, the crowd is fractured, right? I mean, I'm getting to the point. I barely get on even in my stream. I'm watching a lot of YouTube and different channels, and I'll just pick out a movie here and there. But I'm not. Since I have so many more choices, and then I'm not even scratching the surface on my choices. I'm not going to TikTok or Instagram or much on Twitter, and there's so many different streaming services which are going to implode. We know that. I think Hulu's getting folded into Disney Plus. I'm hearing that now. It's going away. So I mean, I don't know. I just think it's going to be. We've had kind of an inverse reaction where you have so many choices to watch so many different things or to entertain yourself in so many different ways that we'll never have something that really cracks the culture like we did back when we were young. I just don't see it happening.
It's a shame because, like I say, kids. I mean, I suppose the most recent one, I suppose, would be like Harry Potter. Where kids can grow up with that, but again, it's not like a series which is then going to keep going on.
That started in the 90s, and even though we had cable, it still wasn't anywhere. I mean, the internet was barely. I mean, you were still dialing up at that time, and so it could still crack the zeitgeist. I mean, I think that kind of thing, that's something that cracks the zeitgeist worldwide, is a 20th century thing, and I think it's going to go away.
It's strange, isn't it? So, speaking of other characters, it turns out that Martin Campbell, who directed Casino Royale, absolutely loved Henry Cavill as James Bond. He thought his audition was brilliant. The only reason they went with Daniel Craig was age. I think at the time, as I remember from the article, Henry Cavill was in his early 20s, about 22, I think, whereas Daniel Craig was a little bit older. And being a commander and the British officer of the Navy, he was too young to play him. But he was very close to getting it. And again, he's still kind of on the cards. But again, it's kind of one of those things that Hollywood just keeps making bad decisions. Like, for example, getting rid of Henry Cavill as Superman. Now, I mean, like I say, I know both of us don't rate the Snyder universe all that much. Aggie's not here. Sorry, Matt. But he was the perfect Superman. That chiseled jawline, the physique, the presence that he had, he was fantastic at it. to sack him as Superman is just everybody was just kind of really, but really, you know, and so seeing him as he seems like the perfect casting for James Bond, but that means he won't get it.
Well, yeah, I was looking back. I mean, Roger Moore. I just got done watching all the Roger Moore ones,
Okay.
and I didn't realize this, that his first movie he was 45, I think, when he did it. 42.
Okay.
He was old, and by the time he got to A View of the Kill, I think he was 43 when he did his first James Bond. So he's already well past his 30s. And he got to View of the Kill. He was 58, and it was hilarious because they cast Patrick Macnee with him because Patrick Macnee was 175, so it made Bond look young as his sidekick briefly. But I mean, it was
how'd you make old. Jack Black? How'd you make Jack Black look thin standing next to Lizzo?
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know that age, if it's done right, because now, you say, well, he was 58. He's way too old to play James Bond. And then you look at Tom Cruise, he's 60 and he's jumping out of a plane and doing all, and he looks fantastic. So I don't know. I mean, there's no reason to me that they couldn't cast Cavill in the role. But
I think he should.
Will they? I don't know.
I think he should, just to annoy James Gunn. And just sort of like, do you want to come back to Superman? No. Doing James Bond now.
I really like Cavill, but I don't know. He's first of all, he's played too many Americans, and I haven't seen enough with his British accent. And he does have an affable quality to him, but James Bond should be a little bit more dangerous. I just don't know if the sexy quips and all that, if he can pull that off quite.
Oh, they're not going to be doing sexy quips anymore. Goodness me, how dare you? We live in 2023. Sexy quips are a thing of the past.
I tell you, I was introduced to James Bond. I was well aware of James Bond when I was a kid and everything, but I didn't really watch any of them. They didn't look like anything I would like. And it wasn't until I was like 17 I finally watched The Living Daylights. It was the first real James Bond I went after, and so Timothy Dalton is kind of my default, like my first impressions of James Bond. And now that I've watched them all, Connery still the best, but Dalton is right up there with him. I think Roger Moore is the worst. And then you get to Pierce Brosnan. Brosnan really brought in. Like Dalton was kind of world weary. He's kind of like, I don't want to do this shit. He did it, but he had added a lot of danger to him, which was great. But he didn't have enough of the charm with the ladies and that kind of stuff. I liked it. I liked that take on it. Moore was just too much of a playboy. He never seemed dangerous to me. And then, but Brosnan, I think he had both. He had the charm and he had the danger. He just had shit movies. GoldenEye was the best, but after that, I mean, they were just shit. So, and Craig's Bonds. I really liked Casino Royale. I still really like it. I was like, finally, not this silliness anymore. But now that I've kind of gone through all the Bonds, it's like, we need to bring back a little silly, I think. it's too
they've
dour.
Right.
Miserable.
Manning, shut up.
What's he saying?
He said, how do you make NGL look thin? Stand him next to Jupiter. And also, Cavalli's British.
Accurate,
Cavalli's,
but mean.
Cavalli's British.
He's British. I know.
No. Thingy's just said it. Sorry. Big Geddes just said it on the thing. But yeah, he is British. Okie doke. Let's move on to then. Extraction 2. I was disappointed because there was no dentistry in this at all. Seriously though. No, but so I watched this yesterday. I had a lad's evening in on my own with a pizza and sat down and watched this. I really liked it. I don't remember much about the first one. I do remember it was a very good action film. I knew it was very well directed. I didn't remember much about it. This one I thought was just quality action movie. There's a decent enough story. I'm not going to go massively into spoilers, but at the end of the last one, Chris Hemsworth dies. But in this new one, he's fine. He basically gets recuperated. And
nothing a montage can't fix.
Yeah, exactly. He is on the road to recovery, and then he finds out his ex-wife's sister is married to a very nasty man in a Georgian prison. And that's George of the country, not George of the state. Is this a state in America called Georgia?
Yeah, no. That if it was the American, it would be a much worse prison.
So. Yeah, that's right. So he basically goes to his sister-in-law, ex-sister-in-law, is married to this nasty man with a couple of kids, and he's now locked them up in the prison. So he's asked, or his next mission, if you like, is to go in and get her out. It then turns out the story is a little bit more complicated than that, and basically, the woman who he rescues and the kid, he kills the dad, but the dad's brother then seeks revenge. And okay, it's nice and simple, it's not too complicated, but it was just the action in it was some of the best I've seen in ages, and I even count John Wick 4 in that because I watched John Wick 4 only a month or so ago when it came out. But this was. It was cracking. You've seen it, haven't you?
I have. I think it's 98% a perfect movie. The only issue I have with it, and I want to be very clear on this. When there's a lot of times when I criticize movies, I criticize because it's got the message, it's full of plot holes, characters make dumb decisions. None of that. Everything is awesome in this. I love this movie from beginning to end. My only issue is more of an aesthetic issue, and it's something that you may love. It's just I don't love this aesthetic issue, and it has to do with the respect to the way they did it. But the single camera, the unbroken shot that went from when he went into the prison till all the way to when the train crashed. I don't know. They never switched camera angles on this.
Done. I'm going to disagree with you there because what I loved about that scene is there's one bit where Chris Hemsworth kind of gets almost knocked out, and the camera lands on him and focuses on him as he falls down.
Yeah,
and I
but
it
doesn't switch. It just keeps rotating the camera around. I mean, I'm sure they stitched it together and everything.
Oh yeah,
it's well done. My problem with it is that I begin to feel like I'm watching somebody play a Call of Duty game, which is not. I prefer more traditional cut and dramatic things with cameras using good edits, which I think they had in the second half of the movie. They didn't try that trick again. And I'm not saying that I hate.
That was a one-take shot.
Yeah,
in all fairness.
I mean, they had some cracking good moments in it, and like there's one where they're on this glass and they're sliding and they're unconscious, and you're like, oh god, how are they gonna get to her? And it was so high up, and it looked really, really good. And the older I get, I have a weird fear or problem with heights. I don't know why. Because I have to force myself. I start actually physically getting weak in the knees. I don't know where it's coming from, but it freaked me out. When the glass is cracking, he's holding her up over that height. I'm just like, oh Jesus, please get her, get him out of there. I can't.
You're sat there with clenched buttocks. I know.
Yeah. But like I said, my only quibble with this movie is a pure aesthetic choice that you may love. I just don't love it. I like a little bit more traditional editing in my action. And this went on way too long, and I felt like I was watching a Call of Duty game, which is great fun to play a Call of Duty game. It's not so much fun watching somebody play a Call of Duty game. And movies have a different language to them than a video game does. And so you need to the edits and the different camera angles and doing different things with it. that adds to the enjoyment and the artistry of it for me. That is it. That's the only thing I can say, and that's really just an aesthetic choice. It's like you may like this, I might like that. There's nothing wrong with either of those. For me, I'm just not as big a fan of that one thing. Plot, direction, acting, action, special effects, everything, masterclass, as you would say. It was really, really well done, and I would definitely watch this again. I did find it more memorable than the first one.
See, I thought that the one take shot, if you like, obviously there were very clever edits in there. I did notice a couple, but I'm sure there was a few there that I missed. I thought that was brilliant from the fact of just the rehearsal and everything that everybody had to go to. It had to be spot on, and I'm always impressed, like with Alfredo Cuarón? Alfonso Cuarón. And again, I remember watching Gravity for the first time, and I sort of in that opening sequence, I'm sat there going, there hasn't been a cut yet. I haven't seen a cut. And to me, a director who can produce longer cuts like that is a much better director than somebody who does then do the quick editing. Because to me, the quick editing is like it's just an easier way of doing it. Whereas obviously if you've got long cuts, I mean, I was raised on the old musicals like Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and that kind of thing. And, again, with those shots, they pan out and they have these incredibly long sequences with very few cuts because everybody has rehearsed and got ready. And, technically it's fantastic. And so that whole sequence, like you say, it must have been like knocking on like 20 minutes.
15, 20 minutes. I don't know. It just exhausted me a bit. And I was like, mad respect to being able to do it properly. You're right. And there are, I don't want to go back to Bourne or where, like seeing Liam Neeson try to get over a fence in 17 cuts and take it free because he's so old. I don't want that. But this long unbroken cut, it just started to feel more like a Call of Duty thing than it did. I was watching a movie.
I get what you're saying.
What for a quibble? This is it. That's all I got. And this is much more of a preference thing than it is a problem with the movie. It's just your mileage may vary, but as far as being a good action movie that you knew what the stakes were, you knew what they needed to do, and you knew what the motivation was with the bad guy, and everybody and great action moments and. The kid, I love the kid calling his uncle because this guy's killed his dad and not being able to accept it. Good stuff.
And then, the whole. Well, I'm not spoiling too much, but like that kid's decision then plays out for the rest of the movie, and all the way through, he's thinking, "Oops."
Bad decisions are made. Good decisions are made. And you understand why the kid made the decision. So I never felt like anybody was doing stupid things in this. I was locked in with all these characters. Hemsworth does a fantastic job. I like him so much more playing this kind of character than playing Brothor or things like that. He is so good at this. And the lady, there's no strong female character, trademark TM, No, this was a strong female character who had to deal with not being as strong as the men and using everything she can. She's very highly skilled in all that, but
funny enough, I went back. I didn't read the review that was on the website straight away when it came out because I thought I'm going to wait to see the film. And then I watched the film, then read the review. I did see a couple of people moaning about her, and I thought to myself, no, because she's not a Mary Sue in any way, shape, or form.
No.
She's highly trained and she knows what she's doing, and she took a right beating in places as well. And so
she still had to be rescued. She almost fell off a building. I mean, and not because she was, they need to give Chris Hemsworth the damsel in distress. It wasn't like that. It was all very organic and natural. I believed everything about her. She came across very credible. And I'm like, I'm fine with that. We can't just say because a woman is doing something in a movie that, would be normally a male kind of thing, that it's automatically because it's woke. No, don't get yourself locked into that because you're going to miss out on some good stuff. You got to take each one as it comes along and make a fair assessment. That's, I try to do it. I don't feel like there was anything woke in this movie at all. It was just
no.
damn good
action.
action.
She just happened to be a female who, like you say, it's obviously trained and just very good at her job. And so, yeah, I didn't have an issue with it at all. I thought, yeah, it was great.
I mean, I will say during the long unbroken shot, it's like the shit that happened in that, and between the cars and the train and getting out of the prison, the riot, and all that kind of stuff. It's like the action was fantastic. It was just wonderful. I just like a little bit of more traditional editing, but that's just me. That is not. I don't want to come across like that's a knock on the movie because it's really just a preference thing.
So you're saying you hated it? That's fine. You're obviously.
I absolutely hated the movie. Piece of shit. Woke garbage.
No, like I say,
0 out of 5.
for me.
Unsubscribe.
For me, it was just back to a good old fashioned action movie where you had a nice and simple story. It wasn't overly complicated. It just got on with the job, and the direction and everything about it was spot on.
It did feel like an 80s throwback. I mean, they even had a montage. They did.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the middle of the movie like they used to do, but it was.
I sung over that bit. Every movie needs a montage, getting better and better and da-da-da-da stuff. Yeah. But I was like, I'm yes, I'm happy. Bring it on. I'm good. It was all great. Yeah. Absolutely. So, the last movie Outpost highly recommends Extraction 2. Even if you haven't got Netflix, you can always get it from other places. But no, it was worth the watch. That's what I like about it. Is when I didn't know anything about the story, but when afterwards, I just felt that was great. I enjoyed that. There are some films I started watching. I started watching The Machine with Brett, somebody or other, and it's got Mark Hamill in it, and it was terrible. It is the worst thing I've seen Mark Hamill in, and I include the Star Wars films in that. It was the last two, I should say. But I mean, it was awful. And
I saw the poster.
I
don't know who that guy is or anything. I saw the poster. I said the poster looks awesome.
Really? I thought he was like big in America or something.
Maybe he is. I don't know, unless they just mean his weight.
But I mean, I tried to watch it, and I ended up fast forwarding through it, so I have no idea what happened at the end. And I mean, I started fast forwarding about half an hour the way through. It was just terrible. Whereas with Extraction, I thought, yeah, I enjoyed that. That made me excited. It made me anxious, like I say, on the whole rooftop sequence and everything else. I was thoroughly into that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And yeah, like I say, so yeah, it's highly recommended. It's a decent movie.
Yeah, I love that the bad guy had that other. I think it was either his uncle or somebody, or his right hand man is saying,
"Yeah,
what are you doing here, man? I know you want revenge, but you're going to put all these guys to their death. What are you doing?" The guy kills him. Like a bad guy would kill, the guy who spoke up or failed him or something. But they made it kind of emotional. It's like I knew I was going to die with a bullet. I didn't think it would be from your gun. I was like, oh, that's brutal. I loved it.
It was
good movie. It's nice to see a good movie for once.
Yes. If they make 3, I'd be happily sit down and watch it. I mean,
they should put They should put the third one in the theaters. I hope they do.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. They have done that in the past, haven't they? They have made movies. Netflix have had stuff go to the cinema, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking this is an odd comparison.
Sure, they have.
You remember the High School Musicals? The only reason I'm aware of them is because my daughter was at the age when High School Musical was the best thing ever, and they came out with the first 2 on Disney Channel. And they blew up so popular that the third one actually made it to the theaters, and which I had to take my daughter to. Nightmare. But
okie doke. So where is it?
I would also now before you do that, I'd also like to make a mention that Big Gator said that you made a terrible joke earlier that I think I gave a grimace to. And I just want to point out that I was not alone.
Pearls before swine. It's, you people, I give you comedy gold and you throw it back in my face. How dare you?
It turned out to be pyrite, but what can you do?
Okie doke. Right, okay. So, Yoda, would you like to close us out, please, and thank you?
Yes, come to lastmovieoutpost.com. You can reach us on Twitter at @movieoutpost. He's at Boba Phil. I'm at Drunken Yoda 1. Hey, Matt Eggy Wags may or may not ever show up again. We are also on Facebook at /lastmovieoutpost and at Instagram at @lastmovieoutpost. I don't know how much we Instagram these days, but I'm
in charge of that. I've been in charge of that, and it's not been going well. So I should try and get back on that.
Our social media presence is minimal at best. So we probably need some work with that. But thank you very much for watching. Remember, we are the latest movie news, streaming news, and everything cool about film. We are the cool news now. So come on over to lastmovieoutpost.com. Let me finish my spiel, man.
No, I got a good joke this time. I was going to say the Last Movie Outpost presence on social media is about as popular as Lizzo's presence at a salad bar. That was kind of worth it. That's not bad.
I'll give you a 6.5 out of 10. That's all right. So, like to thank everybody for blowing up the chats, which I think we had most.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Which
most
either
appreciated.
They're very engaged, or they just would rather chat with each other than listen to us. Either way, I will accept it. And and thank you all for watching. I think we had like 8 or 9 at one point. So wonderful. So look for this on audio coming up soon, and clips of this if you missed any of it. And Phil, got anything left? Anything in the tank?
No. Unless anybody seems to have any archive movie footage of the railways that ran between Yeovil and Taunton, no, I don't.
That's a very specific ask, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next stream.